Are you experiencing back pain that you can't get rid of? Getting migraines, vertigo, having trouble sleeping, and/or brain fog? Do you feel like your medical doctor doesn't understand your condition? Blair Chiropractic might be the solution you've been looking for. If you've ever been skeptical about this, the two doctors you're about to listen to were even more skeptical than you were when they looked into chiropractic work. But fear not. Get expert guidance from the blonde and the bald, Doctors Beth Bagley and Frederick Schurger. These two doctors have extensive experience beyond the healthcare realm and bringing unique vision and healing to their patients. What do you have when you get a biological analyst and an engineer together? Find out right here on another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Welcome your hosts, Doctors Bagley and Schurger.
Welcome, everyone, to The Bald and the Blonde. I'm Dr. Frederick Schurger.
I'm Dr. Beth Bagley.
Hey, so guess what? I found out somebody else has a podcast named The Blonde and the Bald.
What?
Yes, and thankfully they haven't published anything since 2018. So
okay,
we're okay.
Good.
but I was,
we came up to that because we thought it was original. Look at us, we're like posers.
Yeah, exactly. We are not the first to come through this, but we're much better looking than they are.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
I don't know. I didn't even really look other than to see the title.
I don't know.
But in any case, it's been a good week.
It's been an exhausting week, but lots of good things.
There's a lot of good things. It's exhausting for the weather, though.
Yeah, everything's going up and down. And then because it's been such a warm winter and spring has come early, all of the trees are blooming early. And we have a lot of the hay fever and people having the hay fever going on.
Isn't that interesting? Because I'm seeing some flowers blooming up here is what I'm hearing, but I have not seen the trees bloom, which I know because we're getting cold here again. And it is going to get cold,
but yeah, there's pollen-mageddon is happening here in St. Louis.
Yeah. And you're so far enough south that you guys are going to stay just warm enough that's not going to be a major problem up here. If we had it, if it stayed warm, or if it got bad enough that the pollen was going to kick up, it was going to end up actually freezing and killing off a lot of stuff. So it is what it is. Nothing no two around it. But it is interesting to see how many people are having pollen related issues and other dust.
Yes, actually, we set out. I brought from my house a bottle of this product called D-Hist, like the letter D and then dash Hist. It's by Orthomolecular Products, and it really helps me and my family with that. Usually, we start taking it in March to head off the April. We were a little bit behind this year. So we are taking it now, but what's cool about it is you can take a dose of it like 3 times a day on the first 7 days so that you're loading your body with all the antioxidants and the NAC and all the good things that are in it.
Sure. And
so I started taking that. I feel a difference already with the pollen stuff. So that's awesome. But I just load up with NAC on a daily basis because it's just such a great supplement to have. There's a lot of junk in your diet. I mean, I eat pretty clean, but it's nice to have stuff to clean out the stuff that when I don't eat pretty clean. Yes.
In fact,
when you come to St. Louis and have gluten-free pizza.
I do, or more to the point, up here in Springfield, we have something called the horseshoe.
You've told me about that.
Yes.
I've heard people talk about the horseshoe.
It is wonderful when they get your order right, and they don't send you turkey instead of it's the supreme with spicy sauce. In any case, they did good by fixing that up, but it was sort of it was a mess on Friday when I got that, and then I enjoyed it, and I haven't liked the scale ever since.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this week at the office, I had this little boy come in. It was a weird Wednesday, and a weird Wednesday was why it was so weird is we had a whole bunch of patients cancel, bizarre amount of patients cancel. Again, it was lots of different reasons.
Sure.
But why I think it always feels like things are working together for the good. Right. And so because that happened, I was able to spend more time with this little boy that I didn't even know was coming in. I hadn't seen him since he was a baby. He's 3 now. And then another one of my patients had a car accident the day before. So we had to get new imaging on her. So anyway, so this little boy comes in and his mom had just brought him back from the medical doctor and he's been having pooping problems.
No.
So his little body is trying to push out poops and they're hard and it's hurting him and it hurts his butt and it hurts his stomach and he's just really uncomfortable. And so, the medical doctor said needs Miralax and something else, and we're just going to clean this kid out. We're just going to keep things
softeners
moving.
And all of that stuff.
All of that stuff. And so his mom said, "Oh, I'll just bring him to Dr. Bagley just to see. It's been a while, and it had been almost a year since I'd seen him." So we checked him, and this little boy who's like, not that big, his leg lengths were off an inch.
Oh my.
Out of a 3-year-old. So what we're looking at when people are laying on their back or front, whatever, I had him laying on his back, and we're looking at seeing how their legs line up. And I keep their shoes on mostly if they can, but if the shoes line up, their legs are even. If one's pulling forward or back, they're not even, or one way or another. And then we do different tests depending on the patient and how old they are. And it helps us determine if they need an adjustment or not. Well, when someone's pulling up an inch and they don't actually have like a literal short leg, that's a pretty big deal.
Absolutely.
But when a 3-year-old's pulling up an inch, we are looking at a serious disturbance in the nervous system. So then I start poking around on his neck and he goes, "Oh, ow." And I was poking right on his C1 and, not hard, but he could feel it. And he's big enough that we can actually use the table to adjust him. And he did so well. He was so cute. And then I had him turn on his tummy just because I wanted to see if his little SI joints, his little sacroiliac joints were lined up. And I bent his legs down forward. He goes, "Roar," and he toots such a big toot. And they go, "Well, buddy, if you have to go to the bathroom, let your mom know." He goes, "Mom, I got to go to the bathroom." Literally 15 seconds after I adjust him, he's running to the toilet.
Nice. Nice. It's just a matter of getting things turned on. And for the people who are listening at home, how much is an average? What do we see as one of these leg length inequalities? Half an inch is very common.
Yes.
I see that pretty much on a regular basis. It's interesting, depending upon how you measure, I can consistently measure a half inch regardless of age, because there's if you align the feet right, you'll see that half inch flow out in the analysis. And an inch is bad. I've seen, I think I've seen an inch and a half once, but an inch in general is a rare occasion, and those people are hurting and definitely not working the way they're supposed to. Another funny aside, when dealing with kids, I remember hearing, I never had him in class, but one of the senior docs several years ago, he was president at Palmer College at one point in time as well. But he made the comment that if you're going to be dealing with kids, expect them to puke on you, to pee on you, and to poop on you. And he would always wear a 3-piece suit all the time. And one of the students, as he was one of the students in class had their baby, which is very common in chiropractic schools. Moms and dads will bring their kids in with them to class, because oftentimes the kids will be well behaved during class and sleep. But sometimes, sometimes you need a model, and this young child got adjusted by the doc, and sure enough, all 3 on a suit, no less.
Yep. I know I had a 12-year-old patient, so not old one, who's having terrible migraines. He's been having them since he was like in 1st grade. Awful. And last week, so a week ago on Monday, he came in with a migraine. He missed school and he puked like 3 times in the office because he was so sick with that migraine. And he needed an adjustment. We got him adjusted, and he puked afterwards, and that's very common for him. But since then, and he was having 2 to 3 migraines a week, missing school a whole bunch. he has not had a migraine since last Monday. So it's been a week and a half.
Nice.
So we are so excited. And as he was leaving, his mom says, said, she said, I'm gonna make him embarrassed, but he says he just wishes he was right in the parking lot all the time so he could come in and get checked by Miss Beth all the time. And he's like, and I was like, I gave him a big hug. I was like, I like you.
Yeah, that's great. And the funny thing is there are a number of clinical tests used to figure out how migraines are. And it's the one that is very popular, I hate, because for people with migraines, over the course of 30 days, they're going to have there's going to be some sort of headache. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, that almost never goes down to zero. So the test only asks 3 questions. I know this is like a weird, silly technical thing, but it only asks, no, you have no symptoms. Yes, you have migraines. And the third category is sometimes, which means you have 100%, you have 0%, and
that's
everything
so silly.
Everything from 1 to 99%, which is why I don't like that test. But there's another one called a MIDAS test, MIDAS. And if you're a migraine sufferer, go online, find the MIDAS test. It's really simple. You basically, track how many migraines you've had and missed days of work, of school, or anything like that. And it is so regular. One of my patients who happened to be in this week, migraine sufferer really bad through high school. He's in college now, but he was regularly out of a 90-day period, he was probably 60 of those days, maybe just a little bit less, he said, basically unable to go to school.
Oh
and
my gosh.
He's now, he doesn't miss a day.
Isn't that incredible?
It really is. It really is. And it's, sometimes it takes a little,
it does. It's not instant. It's not instantaneous.
If the damage is done, it takes a while for the body to sort of heal itself and get better and stronger and slowly rebuild itself so that everything is working the way it's supposed to. But that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to do that. You do not lift 100 pounds of weight overhead just because you say, I'm going to lift 100 pounds of weight overhead. It takes time to develop the strength. If you've never lifted 100 pounds of weight overhead, maybe you should start with 20 pounds. See what you can do.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like a plan.
It's like, can I push that? Can I get my arm overhead? I had another patient, she's overweight, and we're trying to get her more mobile. And I've got a number of patients who've been talking about this. And maybe at some point in time, we'll do a video just showing the Turkish get-up. But it's a really simple concept of laying on your back and standing up, and just the mobility involved with that. And maybe you don't even, for her, I don't want her to, certainly no weight involved, but I just want her to be able to lay on her back and be able to get up into a position.
Yes.
And then come back down. Maybe it's only halfway through this exercise, but it's a mobility and a strength training drill that helps you move and relearn how to get up off the floor. Because so many people, if they fall and no one's around to help them get up, what are they going to do? Are they just going to lay, on the floor because they can't move? Sure, they could, it's just one of those realities. And this is why I really feel like we help people get stronger, not only physically, but certainly our nervous system gets stronger and more resilient and more robust and able to deal with stresses in our lives.
Yes.
So again, it's a matter of redeveloping some of these things. And if you've been dealing with migraines for 20 years, give me a couple of weeks. It might not.
Why is it instant? I had a migraine again. Why did it happen again?
I know.
And I get it. Like, so Advil works, right?
Sure.
It makes the pain go away within 30 minutes of taking it, or a fever go down. Maybe not all the pain or anything, but man, it works, right? So we live in a society of now. And I'm going to be honest, an Advil is a lot cheaper than me. I am expensive compared to an Advil, but And Advil does not give you vitality.
No.
And that's what Blair Chiropractic does, is it increases the vitality of the human body. It allows people to live a more in tune life with the relationship with the world. Like, yeah. I sometimes I'm thinking, like, I'm driving next to all of these people when I'm driving, right?
Sure.
How many of these people are subluxated? How many of these people have their heads not on straight? And I'm going to say a lot of them probably don't. It scares me sometimes because I'm like, you all don't see things coming as fast as I do.
Exactly.
Because my head's on straight.
How's their depth perception? Are they reacting to stuff? I mean, we're not even talking about, are they playing with the radio or trying to look at their phone or texting or trying to figure out, they're new to town and their directions aren't giving them what they're supposed to be. I mean, so many things. And that's just one more factor that can get people into a car accident, which might bring them in your office, and it might not bring them anything anywhere. So it's lots of problems, lots of concerns.
Yes.
And just being able to have that connection and realizing that it takes time for the body to heal is probably one of the best things. But you know what? We start with some of the best tools that are available.
We do.
So
yes.
Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. So
let's take a look at our new favorite toys, because you and I both have a cone beam now.
Yes, the cone beam CT scanner. So it's called a CBCT. And I'm going to share my screen, I think.
Do we still have it up?
I do, but it didn't share. The cone beam CT scanner is a technology piece that is replacing X-ray in a lot of the chiropractic offices. So I'm showing you, don't worry, it is my cone beam. So we're not going to break any HIPAA because I give you all permission to look at it with me. So if you're listening in audio, I do highly recommend picking up at some point and watching this video, because this is going to show you the technology we're talking about. Now, this cone beam was done probably the day or the second day I had the cone beam CT installed or something. It was sometime in there. So this was maybe 6 months old now. So cone beam CT scanner is what allows us to do in about 30 seconds what we were doing with X-rays over a period of
it'd be 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes, I would say. And so now we can take tiny slices on the images and kind of go through, and now you can see, let me bring that down. You can see my
why don't you zoom out of this one here and give people a sense of what we are seeing and what we're looking at here.
So that, you want to see that right there?
Yeah, we'll start with that. Let's give people some landmarks so they know where things are.
So right now we're looking at what it would be like as an X-ray. Now, if I pull the whole thing out and just look at the whole thing, now that's sort of like an X-ray there. I'm going to make it darker. There. Now you guys can see it looks like an X-ray. So the thing that's cool about a CT scan is you could take the tiniest slice. Now I got to change it so you can see.
Well, and before we get into the tiniest slice, let's take a look. Show people, let's point out where the nose is and where the teeth are.
So I think people can see that. That's the nose there.
Yep.
Teeth are right here.
Yep.
We've got the where we swallow right
esophagus.
Here.
Yep.
Esophagus. We've got base of the skull. C2 is this chunky bone here. C1 is that little dot and the little dot. So if I bring it out and make it big again, you can see it looks like C1, C2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 gets cut off there.
Yep. And there are 7 bones. There are several, every mammal, with the exception of like 4 species, and I can't remember them off the top of my head right now, have 7 bones in their neck, 7 cervical spinal bones. The atlas and axis are very consistent and very similar in the sense that they allow for some rotation. But it's just one of those curious things that all mammals share that trait, again, with the exception of 4 3-toed and 4-toed sloths. I think they're 2 different sloths that only have 6. But so keep going. Show the disc spaces.
So disc spaces is what I want to see here. So we're looking for like between each of the vertebra here, we want to see a normal size disc space. Here you can see this one's maybe getting a little bit small. I don't like that. We can also see like the impact of maybe a whiplash that I had when I was 16. Some straightening of the spine. It's not perfectly straight. Yay. We want to have a curve there. There is still a leftover of a curve. Another little one that's getting smaller there. And then this one fills back out again.
And generally those curves are banana shaped, not only in the neck, but also in the low back.
Yeah. So that banana shape kind of looks like that. That's the banana there. So when we have the banana shape, lovely. What I like to say is that if you can see can you see my cursor?
I can.
Okay. The brainstem pops out here and then it comes through the banana. When we have straightening, it has to make a kind of a zigzag to come down. And we don't want that. That's not nice. So if we look at the 3D modeling of this, and at some point we like cut my face off of this one. I don't remember how we did it. Do you remember how we did it?
Yeah, and there's a way to bring that back, but I don't see it. And right now
we don't really need to do it.
We don't need to do it, but reoriented people so that they know where the atlas axis flips front.
You would, if I hadn't cut my face off of this one. Yeah. I don't even remember how to do that because I don't ever do that now, but the face is over where my cursor is on the left-hand side. We're coming through there and then atlas is here. So if I took it straight on here, that's like almost looking through my mouth at what atlas looks like right here. So that's that top bone C1 and C2 is right here. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 gets cut off a little bit. So now we can see in 3D, we can start seeing misalignments in the lower cervicals. Now, C1 is actually extra special. I tend to not look at the overall misalignment at C1 because we need to look at the joint spaces, and they're really hard to see from this angle. That's right here. They're not real easy to look at, and they kind of are broken off a little bit. So because the bone density there was a little lower, but right here we can see this C2. What would you say that is, Dr. Schurger? Can you see it?
I'm having a hard time. I'm having a computer problem, apparently. I don't know why.
Hopefully this shows up. Yeah. So C2 on this one is moved a little bit forward. So we call that an AS. Let me make sure I'm not turning it the wrong way. R. And the ASR is just a listing we use as Blair doctors that help us know when we look at our notes, ASR, that means C2 has moved forward on C3 on the right side. So when Blair doctors talk, and actually any chiropractor talks about listings, a listing is the way a bone has moved on you. Now, what's awesome about Blair doctors is we actually use angles in our analysis too. So when we are looking at this bone moving forward, the other thing I really care about is what angle that is at, because I'm going to be different than Dr. Schurger and my left side is going to be different than my right side. So we're looking at those angles to help us determine when we do the adjustment that it's precise for our patient. So do we want to look at how C1 mislines? Because mine are big and they're easy to see.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you can still see it? Because if you can't see it, I don't think other people will be able to see it.
I'm having, like I said, I had a computer problem. Something got goofy here, so I didn't want to crash our conversation. No. Like I said, I could probably see it if not for that problem that I just had. Yeah.
Okay. So when I pull up.
Now, for those people who are when we're looking at a cone beam CT, we're looking at it as if we're looking at a normal person. So the left is on the left, the right is on the right. There are some, if some MRIs, depending upon how they're set up, some other X-rays, they might flip that around. That is a medical reading because they tend to be looking at you from the front. So they have to think about it in backwards way. So that makes their life easier. Chiropractors traditionally have been looking at people from the back and the spine because that's where the spine is. So left is on the left and right is on the right. But in this case here, we're actually going to do a little bit more while we actually turn the angle to view the joints individually.
Yes. Okay, so when we look at, so I'm going to pull right now, if you guys know anything about anatomy, this bone at the top left is atlas. We're looking at it from the top down. So atlas bone has these two little wings off the side, and these are called transverse processes. The little holes in there are these foramen that the vertebral artery passes through. These little spots here are what connects it to the base of the skull. And then this hole is where our brainstem lives. Right there is the area where the brainstem is turning into the spinal cord. It doesn't just like have a line and it's like, I'm brainstem, right. I'm spinal cord. It molds itself and changes. And at some point we can call it spinal cord. Right there, I would still call it mostly brainstem.
Well, and in fact, a lot of stuff that is traditionally considered a brainstem function actually extends down as far as the third cervical, like that trigeminal nucleus we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, bring this to a smaller position. And let's look at my atlas in the right angle here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom up on this picture here. So all I want people to pay attention to is what atlas looks like when it's misaligned. So this is the base of the skull right here. Atlas should be there. So that millimeter, this is probably like 4 millimeters. It's pretty big.
That looks pretty big. Yeah.
I've got a big misalignment, which is why I'm a chiropractor, because I was pretty sick for a long time. So that's an anterior misalignment on of C1 on the base of the skull. We call that an ASR. And I won't go into the details of what angles and everything that we need to take for that to get that back adjusted, because that's a whole seminar in itself. But in general, this is why I do what I do, is because if somebody at some point did not move this bone to back where it was, I wouldn't be a chiropractor. I wouldn't even know that this helped people. I would never have known any of the things I do. And that's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast, is to explain that you do not have to live like this. This is not vital. This is not how anyone should live. And when you have a subluxation of the upper cervical spine, your body is not going to function ideally. Could you still survive? Absolutely. You could live a wonderful life, but not quite as wonderful if your head was on straight.
Yeah. And what we're looking at here in this large picture is actually what's the word I'm looking for?
Protracto.
Well, protracto is the word we use, which would be a jargoning word, but it's an oblique view of the atlas condyle in a way that we can actually see the joint directly and observe how much the bone has actually moved from its normal position. Normally, what the fancy word is juxtaposition. The simple version is in line. They should, the joints actually are very much designed to have these nice smooth surfaces. Like if you looked at my hand here, we can see how the hand just has that natural J between my first finger and my thumb. That this is a very common observation along joints. Joints will smoothly transition from one to the next as long as there is not some stress that has moved them out of place, that has caused them to get stuck, and then consequently, potentially, and especially in the case of the atlas, need to be corrected by a chiropractor to get you back to where you need to be. Otherwise, your body starts causing other troubles and other problems.
Yeah, I just cleared up that picture a little bit more just in case someone couldn't see it. I just made the slice thinner. We don't just look at that thin slice, but it is really easy to see in this position where that slip has happened.
And that's a pretty big slip.
And it always, even we saw that on x-rays too. So it's not like, oh, I never saw that on an x-ray. We could see that on x-rays also, but
very much so.
It is so much clearer and so much more fun to see on a CBCT, because then we can see all different angles and how everything moves and how everything's not moving. And we can do it all in 30 seconds. The one thing I will say is I do spend more time reading a CBCT than I did on my regional x-rays.
Oh my goodness. Don't we ever? It's easy to spend 20 to 30 minutes looking at stuff and analyzing and turning your head. Go back to the 3D view, because I was talking with another colleague is the wrong phrase, but she's a close friend of the chiropractic community, because she works in the system. And we gotten a picture of her, and I was explaining to her what she was seeing, because this is the first time she had she's been a friend forever and a friend of the Blair Society, but she hadn't had a Blair adjustment. So we took a picture, got her adjusted. Nice. And one of the things, go ahead and turn to a lateral-ish view.
Hold on, I'll do it so that it's straight.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh wait, that one.
You had the right one. Yep. Pull on in. So one of the things, zoom in on that C4 joint. Right there is good. So as people looking at this is, we have the fourth cervical, and then we have, no, stay where you were, stay where you were, stay where you were, go back, pull back, pull back, pull back. Because you got C5 exactly where it's supposed to be. See how clean it is? So she's on C5. C4 is also very clear. You can look straight through because the cone beam only does bone. If we went to look at her brain, we wouldn't find it. It's sad. There's no brain on a CBCT.
I don't have a brain.
Exactly. But we can see right through that joint. And that's how joint spaces should be generally. They should be, I mean, this one here is misaligned, but it should, have that nice sort of, we should be able to see it in that way. But if you pull up to C2, see how C2 there, you can't, you got to turn it right there, pull back just a little bit right there. That's almost looking at the joint as square on, maybe not, we could probably square it up just a little bit more, but but you see how much you had to twist that
between that and that, like it, and on a traditional x-rays you can't do that.
And this is a fact. And well, two things. One, you can't see it because this is what they consider something called tropism, which is a turning of the facets. That
which is natural. It's supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's very normal that you have this. Sometimes you have it at C2. Sometimes I've seen it at C3. And this is the interesting thing that we're discovering for people who have gone to other chiropractors, even other upper cervical doctors who are not clearing out. They're still having trouble. Oftentimes we look at these joints and I see something just a little different because I can actually turn and say, oh, we need to address you in this manner because this was not seen as directly on an x-ray by somebody who's really good doing their proper work, but they're missing a little key component that this new technology allows. I mean, the stuff that I've seen on this and the ways that I've helped patients, it's phenomenal. I've got people who are who've been having trouble holding their adjustment. They're having all sorts of symptoms, and then all of a sudden, bam, they start doing great. It's not that they were doing bad.
No, but this elevates. It is next level. That is a great way to say it. We weren't doing anything wrong before, but we weren't where we could have been. And now that we have this technology in our own offices, like we don't have to send anybody. It is right down the hall right here, and I feel like I'm in a dream. It's just amazing.
I know, right? It makes life so much easier. And sometimes I'll look at something and I'll be my brain will be scratching. I'm like, am I really seeing that? And I'll check it about 2 other different ways just to make sure, which is nice because now sometimes the limitation of any sort of healthcare paradigm. It's nice to have, this is the engineer in me. I want to have 2 different ways that I can figure out, am I going in the right direction? I mean, if you want to get really nerdy, it's not Galileo. Who's the other guy who created calculus? And then
Newton? No.
It might have been Newton. I can't remember who created calculus. But in any case, the guy who created calculus as a teenager, crazy, said, I wonder if there's another way to do this. And then he creates differential equations 6 months later. So he's actually got 2 different math ways to figure out the same problem. By getting this x-ray, we've got a couple of different ways we can look at your spine to make sure and double check, because I am a very much measure twice, cut once type person. And we don't want to we want to measure, and I'm certainly not going to cut on people. but I want to make sure that when we put their head back on straight, it is as precise as I can, which is also why 6 months, a year later, something's just not working the way it's supposed to. It's time to take another picture.
New pictures, yes.
Because first, the radiation dose, things change.
So low.
Your body is a complete, is adapting and moving around in this fashion. The joints aren't going to change, but how you are holding those joints changes. And it's amazing what 5 degrees does. And again, the radiation dose is very low. This is one of the best parts about this. Not that,
so unbelievably. It's one of those things is when people actually, I had a dentist come in and he was like, oh man, that CBCT, I get one in my office, but he goes, I don't even think I'd use it that much because he doesn't do implants or anything. But he said, but I'm just so worried about the radiation. And so I whipped out the sheet and I was like, oh, no. It's not a traditional CT scanner. Yeah. This traditional CT scan is an incredible amount of radiation.
It is. And it's still, if we go back to the early days, I mean, man, I am missing all of my good trivia knowledge. Marie.
Do you need an adjustment?
I might. It's I actually feel pretty good. I just but my brain's been in other places. But Marie Curie, that's it. Her notebook on all the stuff she was doing radiation wise is still radioactive today.
Isn't she still radioactive in her grave?
Probably.
There's somebody who out there who did a whole bunch of studies on stuff, and like they have a lead lined casket. That would not surprise me. I don't know if it's her. I have to look up who it is.
But a lot of these early radiation and X-ray studies, they would, people would be literally burned from doing what they were doing. And then, so this was what they considered a low frequency imaging. Then came along high frequency imaging, which is what modern X-ray imaging that you and I have been doing for the past 15 years or so has. And it's been around since the 80s, I believe, is so much lower dosage. This is even lower dosage than that, which is just phenomenal. So I'm not going to take pictures just because it's an investment in certainly our time to analyze these and send them off to our radiologists to get reviewed.
Yes.
But it's still, if we need to figure out what's not working, it's a much easier entry point to figure out what the next step needs to be. So I think it is fantastic. It allows us to focus on the joints all that much better and see some joints that we haven't really been looking at because a X-ray just does not show them as clearly.
Yeah. According, just if we go back to radiation just for a second, the amount of background radiation, just living your life, radiation that you'll get in 2 days, just living, is about the same amount you would get in one CBCT.
Right. So, and that's those of us living around here. You go and hang out on a mountaintop in Colorado, and you'll get a whole much more. And those people aren't having trouble.
No, because it's so low dose. Again, we don't mess around with radiation. No. I don't want to take one of these on my body every hour for the next 20 years. I don't want to do that either. That's too much. But what we do, even if we had to do one every 6 months or even every 3 months on someone, I would not have a problem doing that.
Yes, exactly. So it's just a matter of figuring out what the need is for the individual.
Yep.
And the other nice thing is I've had 2 patients where we had to send them out for an outside consult with a medical doctor because something looked amiss. And that's something that may not have been picked up on an X-ray in the same fashion. And now we can start asking questions and, work with other medical professionals and say, hey, I don't, this is off. You guys do your due diligence and make sure that we don't have a situation where our mutual patient is going to have bigger problems. We want to make sure that everybody is getting the care that they need, whether it be medical care or chiropractic care. My goal is to have people as healthy as possible. Yeah. For you and I, we visit with each other and we're like, hey, do you need to get adjusted? Let's check. That is our lifestyle. But, on a given day, if I decide to break a leg, or I need a knee, if I did screw up my knee that we were talking about earlier this year, I might need knee surgery. So not that
or
I
might need a knee replacement. I don't want to, but
exactly.
I had a lot of damage in high school to these old knees. And if I need a knee replacement, I've helped a lot of patients get through knee replacements just because we want to, but actually to this week are getting them. And we checked them this week on Monday. And then one of them had a Wednesday, one of them had a Thursday appointment for knee surgeries. And we'll check them in a couple weeks when they're recovered enough to get back in here, because they knew that they wanted to be in tip top shape for that surgery and on the other side of that surgery. And it's going to give them such a better quality of life when they can move their knee and get up and down and not hurt all the time.
Yep.
So
very much so.
I'd be on that list if I have to. So far, I don't have to. So I'm happy.
I'm going to do everything I can to not be on that list.
I don't want to be on it. But if I had to, I'm not going to tell somebody not to get it. I mean, it's an incredible a lot of these surgeries are incredible, and they create such better quality of life. But our goal as chiropractors is to keep people from having to get those surgeries as much as possible. We don't want as long as possible.
Yeah.
But I'm not against them. I'd prefer people not get degenerative enough that they need them.
Yep. And that's the plan. Well, Dr. Bagley, I think that's a great place to wrap it up for the night. Any closing thoughts?
Nope. I just think everybody who's listening right now, I hope you share this. If there's some information or you thought this technology is really cool, tell someone about it. If someone's suffering with migraines or some neuro disease or something that they don't have answers to, show them this podcast, show them what we do, because this changes lives and we want to be out there helping people, and we want to help more people. So we are here to help.
And, it's funny because, as you said people suffering with migraines, I was writing, editing a blog post that I'm working on. Yeah. And one of the things that I remembered, because it was a history of chiropractic, was it doesn't have to be migraines. It doesn't have to be back pain. People with seizures. And the one that I remembered out of the blue was amenorrhea.
Oh, yeah.
And there's two funny stories.
Well, real quick, tell people what amenorrhea is, because not everybody listening is going to know it.
Amenorrhea is when a woman cannot have her period. She basically does not, properly ovulate and things like that. And the funny story goes, the one half of the story ends up being that there were two people that had called up Dr. James Sigafus. One had a period that was not stopping for like weeks at a time. Yeah. And the other one couldn't have a period. So they set up appointments. He adjusted both of them, and he was a big Atlas adjuster, adjusted both of them. And as he puts it, the one that wasn't, and the one that wasn't was.
I've also heard stories of male chiropractor in a grocery store, and a lady across the way is like, "That's the doctor that got me pregnant." And everyone's like, "What?" And he was like, "No, I helped her." There's just no way to get out of that.
That sounds like a really good John Hillpish story. Good. Dr. Hillpish is up in where's he at? He's up in Twin Cities in Minnesota. Yes. Good Catholic family. He and his wife, again, I'm not remembering names for whatever reason.
We should invite him on the podcast. He's got good stories.
We should. But he's got 6 children, and one of the things that is the running joke is that he has gotten several of his patients pregnant. They've got over a couple of hundred, if I'm not mistaken, if that's people who went through all the ringer of stuff to try to get pregnant, and then they couldn't, and then they finally said, let's try this upper cervical stuff, and sure enough,
what do I have to lose? Yeah. And so many times we hear from someone outside, it was like, oh, that's just a coincidence. How many coincidences need to happen for us to say there's a trend?
Yeah, exactly.
This is a trend.
I'd love better research, but we have to start asking the question, hey, this thing happened a lot, and we weren't, this was not the outcome we were aiming for. It just happened to be that outcome happened as well. So it's different. There are different forms of research. Whereas the double-blind placebo is a very interesting model. It's a really hard model to do with chiropractic, orthopedic surgery, and a lot of other things.
Double blind, like that would be the chiropractor doesn't know if they're giving the adjustment or not.
Exactly.
It can't be done.
It's like, I'm not sure I delivered the adjustment, but anyways.
Oh, well, I am Dr. Beth Bagley. My website is www.precisionchiropractic, STL, as in St. Louis.com. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
And I'm Dr. Frederick Schurger, Keystone Chiro, SPI.com. I'm in Springfield, Illinois at Keystone Chiropractic. We look forward to make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things for the Blonde and the Bald podcast, whether it be on YouTube. Do your reviews, your 5-star reviews, because apparently that gets people hearing about this. And that's all the things we need. So we look forward to chatting with you in a couple of weeks or in another week. And everyone have a great day.
Bye.
That's all for today's episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's show with Drs. Bagley and Schurger, remember, don't give up and just live with the pain. Come back next week and get more answers and solutions. Visit our websites at KeystoneChiroSPI.com and PrecisionChiropracticSTL.com for more info, and catch all the episodes of The Blonde and the Bald.